What if I told you that Nintendo once sold playing cards before becoming the company that defined modern video games? Welcome to Cartoon Time Machine, where we bring animation, comic book, and video game nostalgia back to life. I'm Jason Starr, and I've worked in the media industry for over a decade, and I've also been studying media history since 2010. In this video, we're diving into the rise and evolution of Nintendo, from its humble beginnings to becoming one of the most powerful names in gaming. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, one name dominated childhood entertainment: Nintendo. From Mario and Zelda to Game Boy and the Super Nintendo, it shaped entire generations. But Nintendo's story stretches back far beyond video games. So how did a small Japanese company transform itself into a global gaming empire? The humble beginnings. Nintendo's story starts in 1889 in Kyoto, Japan. It wasn't a tech company. It wasn't even about electronics. Nintendo began as a maker of handmade playing cards, used for a popular Japanese game called Hanafuda. For decades, the company stayed in the card business. But as the 20th century moved forward, Nintendo experimented, dabbling in toys, instant rice, and even hotels. Nothing stuck. But that willingness to experiment planted the seeds for the innovation that would later define them. And in the 1970s, Nintendo's true transformation began when it turned toward the emerging world of video games, entering the video game market. In the 1970s, Nintendo began exploring electronic entertainment. It developed arcade games like Donkey Kong, which introduced the world to a certain mustached hero who would later be known as Mario. These games weren't just hits, they were cultural moments. With the success of Donkey Kong, Nintendo realized it could compete in the global gaming industry. But the real breakthrough came in 1983, when Nintendo launched the Family Computer, or Famicom, in Japan. In America, it became known as the Nintendo Entertainment System, aka the NES. The NES didn't just succeed, it revived a nearly dead gaming market after the crash of 1983. Suddenly, Nintendo wasn't just making games, it was saving the industry. The golden era of Nintendo. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, Nintendo was unstoppable. The NES dominated living rooms across the world. Games like Super Mario Bros., The Legends of Zelda, and Metroid defined what video games could be. Then came the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, bringing 16-bit graphics and classics like Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, and Chrono Trigger. Nintendo wasn't just selling consoles, it was building franchises that became cultural icons. Characters like Mario, Link, and Samus weren't just video game heroes, they were household names. But competition was on the horizon, and it came with speed. The Console Wars. In the 1990s, Nintendo faced off against Sega in what became known as the Console Wars. Sega's Genesis challenged Nintendo with its edgy mascot Sonic the Hedgehog and aggressive marketing campaigns. Nintendo fired back with its library of classics and innovation in gameplay. The rivalry pushed video games into mainstream culture, turning them into a global obsession. But as the industry evolved into 3D gaming in the mid-90s, Nintendo faced new challenges. Sony entered the market with the PlayStation. While Nintendo launched the Nintendo 64 with revolutionary titles like Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, it began losing ground to Sony's new powerhouse. Still, Nintendo wasn't done innovating. Reinvention and Resilience. In the 2000s, Nintendo took bold risks. From 2001 to 2005, Nintendo launched the GameCube, the Game Boy Advance, and the Nintendo DS, home video game and handheld consoles that continued Nintendo's dominance in gaming. Then, in 2006, came a revolution: the Nintendo Wii. With motion controls and family-friendly games, the Wii broke through to audiences who had never touched a controller before. It sold over 100 million units worldwide, proving Nintendo could win by redefining the game rather than competing on raw power. Even when competitors like Sony and Microsoft fought for cutting-edge graphics, Nintendo leaned into creativity, accessibility, and fun. But the real comeback was still ahead. Nintendo today and beyond. In 2017, Nintendo launched the Nintendo Switch, a hybrid console that could be played both on TV and as a handheld. It was a massive hit, combining Nintendo's tradition of portable gaming with the flexibility of a home console. Games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Animal Crossing New Horizons became instant classics, bringing in new generations of fans. Today, Nintendo isn't just a video game company, it's a cultural powerhouse. From its theme parks in Japan and the US to its growing film projects, Nintendo continues to expand to reach far beyond consoles. And through it all, its legacy remains the same: innovation, imagination, and the ability to create worlds that bring people together. Lessons learned. The story of Nintendo shows that greatness comes from risk-taking, reinvention, and staying true to creative vision. From humble playing cards to global gaming dominance, Nintendo survived crashes, wars, and rivalries by constantly evolving. It didn't always win every battle, but it always found a way to reinvent itself. And that's why, more than 130 years later, Nintendo remains a household name. Thanks for watching. What's your favorite Nintendo console? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into animation, comic book, and video game history. See you in the next video!